I'm on the ferry heading to Paros, one of the most popular islands of the Kyklades, to meet a young farmer who works the land in an environmentally sound way. He'll show me how his crops thrive with next to no water.
If a crop really has to dig down deep to form its roots, you will end up with a more resilient crop.
Beautiful. That's exactly the sound we want. And we'll make a wonderful rabbit stifado. In the kitchen, I'll make a delicious octopus mezze. Let's have a little mezze together. And a chickpea quinoa salad infused with the flavors of the Aegean. I just got the powerful smell of all these herbs. Join me for an eye-opening journey from his farm to my Greek table. Paros, dramatic beaches, snow-white buildings, barren hills. With its stark beauty, this island has all the makings of a picture-perfect postcard. In ancient times, this Cycladic island was the economic center of the Aegean. Known for its olive oil and wine, but also for its translucent marble, which was used to make some of the most famous statues of antiquity. Today, Paros is a tourist paradise, but it is also a paradise for the delicious riches of both land and sea. And luckily, there is still a vibrant agricultural tradition on this sun-parched Greek island, embraced by a younger generation. Alkis Downward left a budding career in international relations to resuscitate his family's farm, Petra, not too far from the island's capital. I'm here to learn about dry farming on this sun-parched island and about creating a balanced ecosystem where sustainable living and cultivation go hand in hand. It's so intense. It's almost salty. I mean, this doesn't need salt. If you make a salad with this, it doesn't need salt.
We're gonna pick some of these for the stifado that we're going to make.
Okay. I'm just picking the ripe ones, huh?
The ripe ones and the slightly orange ones too.
And these all survived, no water.
We do grow a lot of our cherry tomatoes that are all local varieties whose seeds we save every year and replant. We do grow a lot of those without any irrigation.
Uh-huh.
Here we've taken a piece of land that used to be cultivated 60, 70 years ago.
You're dry farming, as they say here, right?
Yes, this is a dry farm. We've built terraces, so the steeper the slope, the more that the soil's gonna run off, the more the water's gonna run off. So that's why you wanna try and flatten it out. And when the rain starts to fall down, if it reaches the back of the stone wall, it has nowhere to go but down into the earth.
So it irrigates naturally.
It irrigates naturally, exactly. Here we have oregano growing just below the terrace. And then this here is the capers,
These are capers.
that are very young. They're 2 years old, these.
Uh-huh.
And eventually they're going to cover the whole area of the soil that you see bare. So the main limiting factor on the island is water. And also, if a crop really has to dig down deep to form its roots, you will end up with a more resilient crop. And capers are a very good crop because they require no water. They're very drought resistant. So we're now gonna get the last ingredient that we need for the rabbit stifado.
Okay.
It's bay leaves.
Oh, great. This is a big tree. Let me see. They smell very, very subtle, very smoky almost.
Yes, when fresh, they're subtle and smoky, and when they're dried, the scent gets more intense. But now we've got everything we need, we can go and start cooking the rabbit.
Okay, I'm following you. I'm making a dish inspired by the island of Paros, based on one of its most important ingredients, chickpeas. But I'm using quinoa instead of rice, which is typically what goes into the dish. One of the most common herbs on the Greek islands is fennel. In the springtime, all of the Kyklades just are completely redolent of this amazing perfume. It's a little bit hard to find in the States, So I'm using fennel bulb and just cutting it into a coarse dice, which I will then cook up with my onion and garlic as the basic flavorings in a really easy salad. I'm just gonna get started on the quinoa. This dish is typically more like a chickpea pilaf, but I like to marry new ingredients into traditional Greek recipes. So we just want to add enough water to cover the quinoa by about an inch and a half. I'm gonna get that simmering. A little bit of extra virgin Greek olive oil in there. Getting the red onions in first, and these are also coarsely chopped, coarse dice. Next, all this beautiful fennel that smells like licorice. We just want to cook this until it's a little bit al dente. When I think of islands like Paros, what comes to mind is this idea of islands that have been distilled down to the absolute essentials of life. And you see that in the food. The food is very simple, but really packed with flavor. The garlic goes in next. And this dish is one of several dishes that use chickpeas. I think we're good here. The quinoa is just starting to simmer. And I'm gonna get started prepping the tomatoes. And I'm just gonna cut these in half lengthwise. You wanna use good, really flavorful tomatoes. Cutting a little bit of fresh oregano. Just get the leaves off the stalks. Let me just check on the quinoa because I think it's done. And indeed it is. And we know that because all these beautiful kernels have popped and they're nice and tender. I'm just gonna drain this. I'm gonna empty this right into the mixing bowl. It's nice and fluffy. I'll finish chopping the oregano and get all this beautiful mint. Mint is one of the few herbs that we traditionally use both fresh and dried. I'm just gonna chop these beautiful tiny fennel fronds. The chickpeas have already been boiled. These were dried chickpeas. You can also use canned. The fennel and onion have cooled down. These beautiful teardrop tomatoes. Kalamata olive slices. The brininess and the sharpness of the olives brings everything out in the earthy chickpeas and those beautiful acidic tomatoes. I have my oregano and mint here, and those beautiful tender fennel fronds, and my parsley. I like to add a little bit of real Greek feta to my Paros-inspired chickpea salad with quinoa and herbs. And I can tell just by cutting through this that it's creamy. The briny flavor of the feta is a really nice companion to the briny flavor of the Kalamata olives. I'm not gonna add too much feta, just enough to give it some zing. A little bit of lemon zest, which ties everything together because it adds this brilliant freshness. I'm ready to make my vinaigrette, and I'm starting with a Greek balsamic vinegar and some extra virgin Greek olive oil. You always whisk the fat into the acid in a steady, thin stream until it's nice and emulsified. It should be really smooth. That's beautiful. That's exactly what we're looking for. I'm just gonna get a little bit of salt into this and a little pepper. Just get that mixed. And this is ready to go right into the salad. And see how nice and smooth it is. The quinoa is still warm, and I can smell all the freshness in this salad. I'm getting that delicious olivey smell from the Kalamata olives and all those wonderful herbs. The mint is coming in really strong. A nice, healthy, but hearty salad that's filling, but not too heavy. Let me get everything on my fork. I just got the same feeling that I get when I wake up in the springtime on a Greek island. The powerful smell of all these herbs. But I also got those beautiful briny Kalamata olives, a little bit of feta cheese for that creaminess. But the best thing of all is that these ancient chickpeas pair really beautifully with ancient quinoa, even though they're from completely different places. And I'm pairing this with a Greek island wine today. This is a blend of Assyrtiko and Viognier, and it's actually from the island of Evia. I knew this would be a nice pairing. This wine is really lemony, fruity aftertaste, and it's got a crispness that pairs really well with all of the complexity of this salad. And it just speaks the language of the Greek islands, Aegean. So what are we doing?
Well, we're going to be cooking a rabbit stifado. It's like a rabbit stew.
Okay.
Rabbit's one of the most common meats that we use here on the island, along with lamb and goat.
Okay.
Put a little bit of olive oil in there just to get it hot.
Okay. So do we have the same interpretation of a little bit of olive oil?
Yes, that's
okay.
the Greek interpretation of a little bit of
Okay.
olive oil. We're just going to season the rabbit a little bit.
Okay.
All right.
So one piece at a time,
One
right?
piece at a time.
Beautiful. That's exactly the sound we want. Rabbit's an important meat generally in the Aegean, but here on Paros?
It's a very sustainable meat. It needs very little food and water to survive, compared to a lot of other animals like cows and sheep.
Okay.
So we're going to leave the rabbit in there to brown about 3 to 4 minutes on each side.
You raise rabbits, right?
Yes, we raise rabbits as well as sheep and goats. We like to incorporate animals in our farm system because they're really good for adding manure to our fields, which allows us to grow our crops organically. That's a nice color over there. That's what you're going for.
How long does this whole thing take to cook, the whole stew?
25 to 30 minutes.
Okay, great. So this
And then it goes into the oven for half an hour, 35 minutes, and then we bring it out of the oven and add the pearl onions, and then we put it back in the oven for half an hour.
Great.
Now that we've gotten the rabbit brown, we can remove it. We use all the parts of the animal too.
Yeah, and those smaller
Fantastic.
parts are often the tastiest.
The tastiest, exactly. So we'll just put that right there.
So what goes in here next?
The onion. So we have about 2 cloves of garlic sliced that we're adding in here. We're going to do a reduction with some of the wine that we get here on the island.
Okay.
This is 1.5 cups of dry red wine. And then right after, 1 cup of sweet red wine.
You know, I'm quite fortunate to be able to spend almost half the year on a Greek island. When I come back to the city, I'm always ashamed, for one, and appalled at the amount of garbage that I have.
Yes.
You know, I don't use plastic anymore. I have a bag that I shop with, and I go to the supermarket.
For me, one of the very important things when it's related to food is, if possible, get to know your farmer in the area. So if you're living in the city, there are farmers that come from outside of the city who go to farmers markets, and they will sell their meats there or their vegetables there. And if that's an option, that's a great option, because there a lot of the time you can pick things out that aren't packaged. The wine is reducing nicely, and we could add the chopped tomatoes from the can.
And the fresh tomatoes?
Yeah. And the chicken stock.
Okay.
We're just going to give that just a little stir, and then we'll put just to mix it all in well. The spices will go once we put the rabbit in. You're going to nestle them in.
Okay.
So now we can put the rabbit in.
Can I stake a claim on the liver?
Yes. I always get the liver, so this time you could get it. And that's our bay leaf.
rosemary.
We have our allspice and our cloves.
Okay, beautiful.
So now it's ready for us to cover, and we're going to take it to the oven.
So now we're doing the onions.
Yes.
Butter goes in here.
Yes.
Okay, so pearl onions.
Now we're going to add the sugar and saute them until they brown on all sides.
And just kind of stir it up a bit.
Yes,
The
stir it
sugar
up a
will
bit, yeah.
caramelize.
Once it browns, we're going to add the 1/4 cup of water. And we're going to let them just cook until they're pierced easily. We can add the water now.
Okay.
We can lower the heat a little bit.
Beautiful. Yeah, those are pierceable.
Yeah.
Into the oven this goes.
Into the oven this goes.
Alkis' friend and chef from nearby Naxos is making us a Paros specialty, skate salad. He quarters an onion and adds half of it to a pot of water, along with bay leaves, black peppercorns, and salt. He cuts the skate into 2-inch cubes and adds it to the boiling water. While it cooks, he slices some scallion and the remaining onion. When the skate is cooked, he lets it cool and starts removing the center bone. The skate is combined with the scallion and onion, along with fresh chopped parsley, ground black pepper, and fresh lemon juice. Once it is mixed, it is ready to be enjoyed. I'm making one of the all-time classic Greek mezze, marinated octopus, and it's something that I always think of when I think of places like Paros, where there's a very strong fishing tradition. The first thing we want to do is clean off the hood of the octopus. You want to cut it right there, just below the eyes. I typically discard this and then flip it over. You want to squeeze out the beak, or you can just use a paring knife. I'm going to cut the octopus into 4 pieces, 2 tentacles each. There's a little bit of cartilage still left in here. I just pull it out. Octopus is one of the most popular Greek seafood dishes, and it's cooked up in all sorts of different ways. I'm just going to set the octopus in the pot. Turn on the heat to low. This is just going to cook literally in its own juices. I'm not adding any liquid to the pot. I'm just adding some fresh herbs to the pot, a little bit of rosemary, fresh thyme, and a few sprigs of fresh oregano. It'll take about ½ hour, 40 minutes. Every octopus is a little different, obviously depending on its size. This is about halfway cooked. It's got that beautiful pink color. It exuded its sea, as we say. It's still pretty tough. This is going to need probably about another 25 to 30 minutes of simmering. The octopus has been cooking for around 50, 55 minutes, and it has been transformed. I'm just going to let this cool and get everything else ready for the marinade in the meantime. A little bit of fresh oregano, some thyme sprigs, and a little bit of rosemary. The octopus is cooled down. We basically want it to be cool enough to handle. And I'm gonna cut it into nice chunks. Try to get them into pieces that are about 1 inch or so. Try to do it on the bias. It just looks a little prettier when you serve it. This is a very, very nice way to serve octopus. You can keep it actually for a few days in the fridge. And you can also marinate them whole and put them on the grill. The last few pieces I'm just gonna get the rest of the ingredients for the marinade ready. Sun-dried tomatoes, just gonna halve them. This is a very Greek island combination of ingredients. My beautiful capers from Paros. Those are going in. A few black peppercorns. A touch of salt, it doesn't need very much. Some of these beautiful herbs. These will infuse the olive oil that's going in here too. Some thyme. I try to squeeze it in just to make it look pretty in the jar because sometimes people come over on the spur of the moment and you bring this out and it looks very cool to serve your own marinated octopus. Okay, and just a few oregano sprigs. These are a little bit more tender, so I can't get them all the way down into the mason jar. And last but not least, the sun-dried tomatoes. Press that down a little bit to make a little bit of room for the liquid that's going into this next. And I've just got pretty strong red wine vinegar. Octopus is really nice when it's marinated in that beautiful acidity from red wine vinegar. And olive oil to top this off. Close up the mason jar. You want to be sure it seals very well. And what I usually do is just turn it a little bit to get everything mixed up in here. I'm going to leave this to marinate for a couple of hours and then serve it up as a beautiful salad. You can marinate it for 24 hours. You can leave it in the olive oil and vinegar for a few days in the fridge. And it's good to eat for 5 or 6 days. It makes a beautiful mezze, and it looks really pretty. Let's have a little mezze together. Look how beautiful this looks. I'm gonna get a little bit of everything on here. This is calling out for a little bit of bread. Time to taste this perfect Greek island mezze. The octopus has actually gotten a little bit more tender by being marinated, even for a few hours in the olive oil and the vinegar. That round, buttery flavor of octopus, very unique flavor, is perfectly balanced by the acidity in the capers and the tartness in the tomatoes. This is like eating an octopus mezze in a Greek island garden with a view of the sea. And I think it pairs really nicely with a Sauvignon Blanc produced in northern Greece, in Amindeo. So citrusy. I'm getting fruit tones, honeydew, almost a creamy mouthfeel to this. It is the perfect wine for rich seafood, and that's exactly what this beautiful marinated octopus is. It's kind of the Greek islands in a forkful.
Welcome, Diane. Welcome, everyone. It's really an honor to have you here for what I hope to be a delicious dinner where you'll get to enjoy some of the local recipes.
I think we're all looking forward to it.
Cheers.
Yamas.
Yamas.
I'm really curious to taste this. The salad is really light but filling because the ray is very meaty. Okay, Alki, I'm going to test your cooking here now.
You got a very tender piece right there.
It's so sweet. It's great.
It's the sweet wine that gives it that sweetness along with the onions that have been caramelized.
It's wonderful. Alki's commitment to the land and to a holistic way of life is inspiring and something we can all learn from. Cheers to Petra.
So this here is the caper. This one's just about to flower, and
Yeah.
it's a beautiful flower. It opens up at night, and by come day, it withers away and dies just like that one.
It's a very delicate plant for something so sturdy.
It's an extremely delicate plant. There's no mechanical way of harvesting it. It all has to be done by hand because any machine that would be used would just snap it. So every caper bud has to be picked by hand. It takes about an hour to pick 2 pounds of capers.